The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. My name is Andy MacNeil. I'm your host. I'm here on weekdays to provide NHL projections, picks, and betting advice to help you make informed bets throughout the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I am joined today by Nick Martin from the Action Network. Nick, how's it going, man?
Doing good. Yeah, I'm pumped. We got
a lot better than me, I take it.
Here. Well, yeah, I mean, I guess you're a Bruins fan. I'm a neutral fan that's pumped to see this Game 7 choke-off. So, I'm excited to dive into it.
Yeah, I've got my Bruins jersey close by just in case I've got to wipe away some tears. Might get emotional throughout the course of this live stream. I've got the Leafs jersey close by in case I got to wipe my ass. So we'll keep that handy as well. But yeah, two solid games from Toronto. Two poor starts from the Boston Bruins. I thought they played the first period with a bit more energy than they did in Game 5, despite the fact that they only finished the period with one shot. But a really poor start nonetheless. And yeah, close game, two close games. But Toronto, all the momentum now. And you like the Leafs heading into Game 7. I'm neutral on this one, of course, not in terms of my fandom. But from a betting perspective, Boston coming in at around, I think the best price in market right now is minus 130. NorthStar Bets has the Bruins at minus 136. That's pretty much what we're seeing across most sports books. The Maple Leafs coming back on the other side at plus 116 at NorthStar Bets. But yeah, I think the Bruins right now, assuming no Austin Matthews, which I guess we're expecting to be the case, Boston should be around a minus 130 favorite. But I don't feel super confident about my projection here. So yeah, take it away, Nick. You like the Leafs in Game 7?
Yeah, I like the Leafs and the under, which I think are probably the chalky takes given the way the last two games went. But at this point in the series, I really just don't see what's going to change so significantly that those aren't the correct takes. I think that throughout the whole series, it's been pretty clear that the Leafs have answered the bell pretty well at even strength and really haven't given up much there. And now with Joseph Woll playing pretty well, that's shown through a little more. And then they're just getting demolished on the special teams, obviously, which is the main reason we're heading to this Game 7.
But more their own doing than the Bruins just dominating them.
Yeah, I mean, their power play has been embarrassing. But that was one of the reasons I liked the Leafs heading into the last two games, because I was pretty confident that the undisciplined penalties would be cleaned up and that the refs would just begin to call nothing, which is how most series go. They call stuff early on, and then as we get into the critical games, when we're talking series deciding, the refs swallow the whistle a little bit. So when you take away that huge power play edge, I just think this is a really tightly contested series. I think all the narratives, who knows? Like maybe we just see one team completely choke and lose this game like 5-0. I don't think that'd be shocking, but what seems a lot more. Yeah, what seems a lot more believable to me though is like someone wins this game 2-1. And I like the under in Game 7, which is obviously always a popular take in hockey. It feels like odds makers have a hard time adjusting. Game 7 unders per the Action Bet Labs database, 41, 26, and 9, 12.3% ROI. So it is a real thing that odds makers have a hard time catching up to these.
Yeah.
And typically I don't rate trends like that, but I do think that there is some legitimate causation. It feels like that's just the dynamic of Game 7 hockey. Hockey players are very conservative and will always err on the side of trying not to be the one who makes critical mistakes than being the guy who comes up with a special play to win something. And that's been the Leafs to a T. Like the whole Sheldon
Boston too. Nobody on the Bruins wants to make a mistake right now. That's the thing that's been bugging me. They're all very tentative. Nobody seems willing to make the risky play. Yeah.
Yeah, and like if you look at the whole Sheldon Keefe era, it's been kind of the opposite of the Leafs' reputation. Really, all the big games, and specifically the last couple of years, are 2-1, 3-2, 3-1. Like last year versus Florida, all 5 games stayed under 6.5. There was one win by 2 goals. The final 3 games were 3-2, 2-1, 3-2. The Tampa series win was 2-1. Game 7 the year before versus Tampa was 2-1. It's basically just been a rule that this is the way the Leafs play. And a big part of it is their tactics too. They really, like we said, with like being conservative and erring on the side of trying to make safe plays. That's their whole decor, and it's worked well to help prevent chances against, but it's not working out well in terms of generating chances for. And one of the other flaws that I think is going to consistently continue is, and this is where I think their decor is more of a weakness, and with its lack of skill, they're good at, like, when the Leafs get controlled zone entries and they have to button hook and play the point, all their point men are not at all good at creating dangerous point shots. Like, I would love to see how this Leafs core looked, and obviously this is part of the reason why you can't have this kind of money tied up. But imagine the way this Leafs core would look with a decor like Colorado's if they had like a
Yeah.
Taves and Makar on the point, because they do well
Instead
to
of a
feed the
Jake
point.
McCabe and
Yeah, exactly. But all those point shots aren't very dangerous, and none of them are very comfortable holding the puck and walking the line. So I think that just continues to work into the hands of the Leafs not being able to score in the playoffs. So I think that, it should just be a very coin flippy tight game, low scoring. I feel like someone's winning this thing 2-1, 3-1, and I'll take my chances that it's the Leafs at plus 120, but also like the under.
yeah, I'm just still pissed off that I lost my series spread bet. Not saying the Bruins deserved. Let's clear this up. I'm not saying the Bruins deserve to win in 6 games or less, but they were up 3-1. They should have won in 6 games or less, given the circumstances, given the state of the series, given the fact that they were a favorite in both games. They should have gotten the job done in one of those games. So I'm definitely pissed off about that, but we move on. 1 and 2 on first round series bets, of course. Got the Rangers series spread, and that was a plus 145 winner. The Jets lost a unit on that, lost a unit on the Bruins, so lost about 0.55 units in the first round on the series bets. But yeah, in terms of Boston and Florida or Toronto and Florida, the prevailing thought seems to be that, hey, doesn't matter who wins this series, the Panthers are going to feast on the Bruins or the Maple Leafs. Do you kind of share that opinion, or do you think that that either of these teams could give the Panthers a little bit more of a fight than people are making it out to be?
I think you got to lean with, like, I do agree with that. I don't think it'd be something impossible. If I
No.
was the Panthers, I would slightly prefer to get Boston, which I know sounds kind of crazy, but I think you look at the Leafs, Matthews, he's had one good game. He's been in and out. He's fighting whatever. Who knows how healthy he'd be in that series. And then Nylander, same thing. Now you've got Woolen there playing much better. So to me,
Yeah.
there's a little more upside with the Leafs. Florida's obviously the far better team than both of them, but they'd be, I think, capable of giving a slightly better fight if everything kind of went their way and you got Nylander and Matthews both in the lineup playing really good, and Wall staying in good form. But I mean, I obviously you'd have to like the Panthers' chances regardless.
Yeah, yeah. Florida made easy work out of Tampa Bay and looked pretty good doing it. But let's talk about the 2 late games on Friday. We've got a pair of game 6s. Of course, the Nashville Predators trying to extend their series. I think they deserve to a game 7. They played the Canucks pretty tightly. I don't think either team has shown that they deserve to win the series yet. So it'd be nice to see this one go 7 and see it decided that way. I don't think Vancouver deserved to be up 3-1 after games 3 and 4, but that's where we saw things sitting, and Nashville got a win in game 5 to set this up. So I don't have any interest in this one from a betting perspective. I think the Predators deserve to be a small favorite. I think if the Canucks got up into the plus 120-ish range, a little bit higher, I would maybe consider betting on Vancouver in this spot. But really, I think this one is close to being a pick 'em according to my model, minus 113 in favor of the Predators. How do you see this one, Nick? I mean, it's just been a pretty evenly matched series in my eyes. I think this one's going to come down to kind of, one team's going to win as a consequence of luck, probably.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that I first off, I should just start by saying I have a play on this game. I like the under 5.5 at minus 110.
Okay.
There's just been nothing going on in this series. And this is what I speculated about when I cursed Demko again and gave him out as the Conn Smythe favorite, or I shouldn't say favorite, as a Conn Smythe pick at 60-1, because I really felt confident that once we saw Rick Tocchet's Canucks get into the playoffs, this is the way it was going to look. It was just going to be really tightly contested, 2-1 hockey, 3-2 hockey every night, and that was going to lend itself to Demko And now with Demko sidelined, it's still gone that way. Seelovs has been surprisingly good. And really, Saros has probably been, and he didn't have the greatest regular season, so maybe it's starting to be the time to consider that Saros just isn't that amazing, but he hasn't had his best series, and we've still seen this low scoring of hockey. And I don't really see that shaking up in game 6. And if you look at the underlying results, they're both in top 5 in terms of chances allowed in this round. So they're pretty much, there's absolutely nothing happening out there in this series. And I think that's kind of true to what we should expect from Talkett's crew getting into the playoffs. So a little frightening when Seelovs has probably played a little above his head so far, and Saros hasn't been in his best form, but I still can't quite see 5.5 here. I think that it's the right time to just stick with kind of the obvious angle. And I almost feel like at most I'm surprised it's -110. I would have thought it was 5.5, like -135. So
Yeah.
I think there's some value there.
Yeah, I mean, both teams have tried their damnedest to slow these games down, and they've both done a pretty good job between shot blocking and clogging things up. So, yeah, I like the look on the under as well. Somebody in the chat asked what if I recap units ROI year to date. Pretty. I don't believe I did at any point, maybe in passing. I've got on my bet stamp since October 1st, up roughly 11.7 units, 4.1% return on investment, 2.3% closing line value, average bet size 0.8 units. So yeah, I mean, pretty decent season, but the first half was definitely a lot better. And I think if you talk to any hockey handicapper, they had a much better first half than they had a second half. I don't know if that's the case for everybody, but a lot of the people that I've been talking to have given away a lot of the profits they made early in the October, November. November was a great month. December, a lot of that got given back in 2024. So, how did it work out for you, Nick? Did you have a better second half than you had a first half, or vice versa? What's up?
My picks on the Action app are about standing still. The high point, I guess you would have to say I gave some back from the high point, but I've been roughly hanging around the 20 unit mark for
Nice.
however long here in the playoffs. I'm like exactly break even now. So,
Gotcha. Yeah.
and I am set probably to take a bit of a hit on my futures, barring getting some favorable cup winners.
Yeah.
So there's that factor in as well.
Yeah. The Stars are my real only
Same.
hope
That's
for a big payout.
I dove in for more at 0-2 in the night series because I felt pretty confident that if they got through it,
Yeah, we
like I
talked about
said,
that.
yeah, and I think it's
25-1.
showing, yeah, because I think they are going to be even versus the Avs. What do you think? Probably pick? I don't know. So,
Home ice. No, I think I'd make that. I think I would make Dallas I don't know exactly, but um, I think I would. I think around -120, -125 ish. Clearly that was I underrated the Stars. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a pass here. I think I underrated the Stars a bit because of the uncertainty with Vegas and what they were going to look like. But it's clear after 5 games that Golden Knights are not the same team as they were last year. They're not up to speed. They're not on the level of the Stars. And I think Dallas has just shown a lot here. Colorado, of course, played great against Winnipeg as well, but I think the Avs have more defensive holes than Dallas does. And we're going to talk about this game right now, obviously game 6, but I saw an interesting take on Twitter last night. Somebody talking about how they were referencing Hellebuck and the Jets and kind of suggesting that teams with elite goaltenders actually have a harder time winning in the playoffs because their general managers, think their teams are further along than they are because of their elite goaltender. So Lundqvist never won. Price never won, etc. Right? And now Hellebuck having a hard time in the playoffs, etc. But I think it's more to do with when you build around an elite goaltender. I think that some of the flaws of a team can get overlooked a lot easier. Whereas the Stars, I don't think they've built around Jake Ottinger. I think they've just built the team in a very smart way. And then, it's just a bonus that they've got a young goaltender who happens to be pretty elite. So I just think the Stars have all the makings of a Stanley Cup contender. You look at expected goals for percentage at even strength, expected goals differential per 60 minutes. The Stars are, 5 percentage points better than the next best team in the first round right now. So yeah, it's pretty impressive 5-game stretch here for Dallas. Definitely got a little worried when they spotted the Golden Knights 2 games. I mean, it was you kind of get filled with that, like, oh, it's happening again. Dallas is such a good team, but they just can't get out of their own way here. But yeah, they've looked really good, and I would expect them to play a really good game in Game 6. But Vegas not going to go down easy. I would imagine it'll be interesting to see what the Golden Knights do in goal. I'm going to guess they continue to stick with Dayton Hill here because Cassidy seems to value his playoff experience. But yeah, I've got Dallas. Got a great price on them yesterday at -107. They are currently -109 at NorthStar Bets. I still think there's a little bit of value there. I think, kind of bottom out -115 is kind of the lowest that the Stars should be priced. And I like Dallas here in Game 6.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I'm not touching it. I'm too invested. I hate to see this Game 7, and I
Yeah.
think you're right. I think the play is the Stars or nothing, especially the way we've seen home ice just be a complete non-factor in this one. And yeah, to talk about the Avs series, I think that people are giving a ton of credit to what the Avs did versus Winnipeg. But like you said, I think Winnipeg had a lot more flaws, and Hellebuck was able to hide them in the regular season, couldn't there. I think that the Jets just had 3 D-men in horrible form. We talked about it at the trade deadline that I thought Monahan was being a very overvalued pickup because I didn't think he could compete at even strength versus elite teams. And that
He was
proved
brought in as a power play bumper pretty much. Like that was I think that was the most that was the
coveted
biggest
part.
selling point for him, is that they could, and he did. I think he looked really good on the Jets power play at times in the regular season. But yeah, no, definitely an overrated pickup.
Yeah, and I mean, that's the problem is the Jets, when you really got down to it, Connor and Scheifele never really achieved very good even strength results versus other elite players. Toffoli and Monahan both were kind of in the same boat. So I just feel like a big part of it was the Jets kind of came into it a little overvalued. And I'm not saying I necessarily foresaw that, but once you saw the games play out, I do think that the Stars are just a drastically better team. So I'm hoping that, and I mean, the Avs winning would actually still be one of my not worst results, but I do think that the Stars are going to give them a much tougher series than people think.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And speaking of great, the first round has been pretty underwhelming from an entertainment standpoint. We haven't had. I mean, we're getting 1 Game 7 possibly if Nashville or Vegas can win on Friday, then we get a couple of more or one more. But round 2 could be shaping up to look really good. I mean, we could have the Canucks versus the Oilers, a matchup we haven't seen in a long time. I think that would spice that rivalry up quite a bit. We could have either, regardless of whether it's the Bruins or the Leafs, we get a rematch from last year between one of those teams and the Panthers. We hopefully get the Stars and the Colorado Avalanche. And then we've got the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers. Those are 4 really good matchups. I don't know that they'll necessarily be as competitive maybe as you would think on paper. Seems like that isn't always the case, but as far as just the being marquee matchups, those are 4 bangers, and we've got one for sure kicking off on Sunday. It's the Carolina Hurricanes and the New York Rangers. I did my series preview on the Canada Sports Betting YouTube channel a couple of days ago, so you can check that out. I think the Hurricanes should be a -150-ish favorite, pretty much bang on right in this series, and that's what we're basically seeing out there at a lot of sports books around that kind of range. But it wouldn't surprise me if Carolina dictated the pace in 1 to 7 games, and the Rangers still managed to make this one a long series or even win it, because past history suggests that this one's going to be pretty evenly matched. Shesterkin's won 8 of his last 11 games against the Hurricanes, dating back to the 2022-23. Actually, I don't know if it's dating all the way back to the 2022 playoffs, but over the last 2 seasons, he's been pretty good against Carolina. The Hurricanes have scored about a goal fewer per game than they have, in all other situations against the Rangers. So, would expect a pretty evenly matched series, even if the Hurricanes manage to control the majority of the play in this one. So I'm not betting either team right now. I think game one is a virtual coin flip. I would be interested in either side if they got up into the plus 110 range. I don't think we're going to see that. Let's see where we're at right now. The even money is the best price on the Rangers right now. The best price on Carolina is minus 110. So looks like I'll be neutral. I think we could see a bigger overreaction in the market when this series shifts to Carolina, depending on what happens in games 1 and games 2. I'm not like dying to bet on the Rangers here, but there's probably going to be a big price on New York in at least one of those games. So that's when I would probably get involved, if at all. How are you looking at this series, Nick?
Yeah, I'm looking to try to get on Carolina in some fashion. I don't mind them in game 1, and then I'm going to go from there and maybe just go right back on them in game 2. The Rangers have the avenues to hang around more than their underlying process suggests, and I think at this point we kind of got to credit that. But I'm still really high on Carolina. I think they're a way better team than in some of those years past. Right now, with the way Jarvis is going, the addition of Gensel, I think that they are. And especially and that's kind of going to be the one swing point is how will Anderson perform this series versus a much better offensive team? Could we see him maybe get out of a rhythm? He's not going to get a ton of shots. The ones that he gets are going to be pretty tough, given the way the Rangers can move the puck through the box. But I still think that we're going to see Carolina cave them in pretty bad at even strength. So we'll see if that point ends up being correct. And if the Rangers have the avenues to hang around in spite of that, they've kind of proven that all year. But I also just am high enough on the Canes that I think I'll live with that take to start and see if I get proven wrong, because I think a lot of this stuff, and especially based off the way round 1 went, I don't think the Rangers were that dominant at even strength at all. I mean, if you look at
no, they weren't at all. They own just 47% of expected goals versus the Caps. But I mean,
and that's
they did have the luxury of playing the Capitals, right, and taking their foot off the gas for long periods. And
but I mean, with that said, I think we've heard a lot of talk about how the Rangers bottom 6 actually got going in that series. I think that's going to go from being a strength to a negative really quick in this series, because you're talking about they faced a Caps team that was already the worst ranked. And I think the point that people are undervaluing is that as a Caps fan, 2 of the guys I get excited about watching that I actually consider better than average NHLers are Nick Jensen and Rasmus Sandin. And they both played 0. They only played in the final game, and Jensen was terrible. He didn't look like himself at all. So I think it's being a little underrated how soft, and they earned it, don't get me wrong, but I don't think they necessarily proved anything. And like some of those games, the Caps lost a D-man early and were left with 3 AHL D-men out of the 5 guys that were actually playing. So I do think that you need to throw that out the window a little bit. I still think Carolina, when you look at their depth, can cause a lot of matchup issues down the card. I mean, they're skating a third line of Teravainen, Stahl, and Jarvis at the end of that Isle series compared to what the Caps have. That's kind of comical. Like, that could go head on with any unit the Caps have and just cave them in. So we'll see how the Rangers bottom 6 fares. I still don't really like a ton of what they have going on, and I think it could get exposed. But we'll see. The Rangers have that, juju that can hang around, get timely power plays goals, and Shesterkin's definitely dominated Carolina historically. So it should be a lot of fun. But
I mean, if we were just going to go off the underlying metrics, the Rangers, they'd be the Hurricane story would be a minus 250 favorite, right? But I think, like you said, there's some things that are hard to quantify when it comes to the Rangers. They do have that ability to hang around. They've got great goaltending. That's what kind of closes the gap for me. But Carolina, I still think wins 60% of the time. in this series. And in game one will be pretty telling. I think I'm giving the Rangers a little bit more a little bit more juice in this one, just because of the variance factor here. I think game one, you see that a lot. So not really interested in laying the -110 or the -115 on Carolina. But yeah, I'm not. I mean, I think this one, like you said, like you're willing to get proved. I'm not willing to be proved wrong on anything here, because I don't have enough conviction in Carolina to really dominate New York on the score sheet. But I guess we'll see in these first couple of games. They'll be pretty telling, just how much the Hurricanes have, I guess, improved from one round to the next. They really started to regain their form toward the end of the first round. So I think that's a pretty good sign. But yeah, 3 games left at least in the first round of the NHL playoffs. Big game 7 tomorrow night. No action for me. I'm just on the Stars at -107. I like them pretty much right up to -110. And Nick is on the Maple Leafs. I don't know. I probably wish I had asked you that before I invited you on the show. I would have changed my mind, but and you're also on the under. Is that right?
The
In
under.
in both games, in Toronto and in Vancouver, right?
Yep. And the under in Toronto's, moving a little more, so that might have me thinking the better position is the Leafs at +120 now. But yeah, I like both those looks.
I hate them.
You hate the
But I
under?
appreciate.
Come on.
Well, no, I don't hate the under. I don't hate the under.
Yeah, I can get the Leafs, but come on.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate you joining the show. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the games. Go Bruins. Good luck with your bets. We'll see you next week.